thing that can be done now is thinking, so a lot of this kind of material efficiency side, you can consider that it's all kind of about thinking about it early in all the different kind of REBA stages. And for example, you might want to specify a higher quality steel, which would ultimately lead to using less steel in the build because you're getting higher tensile strength.
So that could be higher strength steels where it's strength governed columns, trusses, things like that. Right?
Yeah, so one example that I'm aware of is, typically rebar is 500 MPa, but if you go to 520, then you can reduce it by about 4%. So that's 4% volume, 4% less carbon emissions. And that data, so you need to be specifying that data. I think it was Andrea that talked about this earlier as well. Make sure that you specify the quality data and use it as well as the global warming potential data.
Think about how to avoid downcycling steel when it gets recycled. So start thinking about how those circular supply chains can work. Our colleagues in our US scrap business talk all the time about the Nucor effect. Nucor are the first major steel maker that really did recycling through the electric arc furnace route in the US. And the Nucor effect is that they were putting all kinds of scrap into the electric arc furnaces with high levels of copper in them, trying to make higher grade products like sections and flat products. And gradually over time, copper was at a very low level to start with, but it's built up in the whole system in the US. So increasingly, we're finding high levels of copper in constructional steel in flat products, which makes it harder to send them around the loop again, and more likely that they'll end up in reinforcing bar, which is like the sink for the most mixed grades. So obviously, reuse that you're all talking about here is by far the best thing. I know we're not supposed to talk about it, Will, but that gives it another life of 30 or 40 years. If next time we can keep the scrap segregated or separated and direct it into a high-grade application, like maybe first time round automotive sheet or cladding panels, and then the next time keep those separate and try and get it into constructional sections, and the next time, in 120 years, get it into reinforcing bar, fantastic, because then we send it round the loop 4 more times than we would have done if we'd gone straight to rebar. And that's something that everyone in the whole supply chain will need to collaborate on, from design of the building, material passport generation for your buildings, through to the collection systems and the segregation and the steel makers and everyone else. All those specifiers in this room should be demanding steel at 500 or 400 or 200 kilos of CO2 per tonne. You won't get it overnight, but there's plenty of other parts of the world where that's happening. In Scandinavia, there's 5 plants coming, which will be up and running in the next 3 or 4 years, making either hydrogen steel or mini mill type steel. We should be demanding that. We should be forcing people to accept more reuse of steel, and of course, reusing structures where we can.